Okay, today is November 8th, 2023, and the time is 7:30. I now call this meeting of Yardley Borough Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary Ann, will you please call roll?
Mr. Applebaum?
Present.
Ms. Scherer?
Present.
Mr. Feiner?
Present.
Ms. Siegel-Morris?
Present.
Mr. Carlson?
Present.
Mr. Curtin?
Present.
And Ms. Thompson.
President Thompson will be arriving late to this meeting. As President Pro Temp, I'm going to chair the meeting until she arrives, at which point we will turn it over to her. So with that, we will follow the agenda and move to community announcements. Does any member of council have any community announcements to make?
Yes,
Please, David.
Mr. Pro Tem.
That's it.
Is that how it goes? I'm not sure. All right. All right. Thank you. Experience Yardley's first Saturday is November 11th. The theme is Giving Back, and that's an all-day affair. They have made arrangements with different businesses for discounts and other events and activities that have to do with giving back. The VFW American Legion Veterans Day Parade is November 11th also. It steps off, the parade steps off at 10:15 from the American Legion and proceeds down Main Street and culminates with a Veterans Day observance ceremony at the Yardley War Memorial at Afton in Delaware. Farmers Market will conclude their summer hours on November 18th and will resume on December 2nd as an outdoor winter market from 10 to noon every first and third Saturday through April. I'm happy to report that YBA has completed their plans for the Christmas parade on December 2nd. Expect a really grand parade. I was there last night for their meeting, and it includes all kinds of old favorites like the long orange line from Pennsbury and Santa Claus, but there's some surprises this year. And what I'm particularly looking forward to is after the event, everyone's invited to come to Buttonwood Park, where another surprise, but there will be a very festive activities for the town right outside, adjacent to the Buttonwood Pavilion area. I'm not sure what we call that area, but it's where the cupola is, where the old schoolhouse cupola is. So there. So going to be really grand. And finally, YBA is having a holiday business card exchange on December, well, last night they said the 10th. I went to the website, the check sung, it says November 11th. So for everything that I've spoken about tonight, please check the website for accuracy. And that is my report. Thank you. Not report, I mean...
Two questions. David, on the what time is the parade stuff again? I know you said it.
Stepping off at 10:15 a.m. on November 11th, and the ceremony's at 11 a.m.
Okay. And do you want to mention Halloween now, or saving it for your report?
Well, I can summarize
wrap
it.
up.
Yeah, I can summarize it on my report.
Okay. Great. Any other community announcements? Okay, we'll move to public comment. This is the part of the meeting where anyone can approach council and make comment on anything not on the agenda. Seeing as how we have no members of the public here tonight, we will move on, but encourage you to come next time. And we will move to consideration of the consent agenda dated November 8th, 2023. This consists of approval of the minutes dated October 17th, 23, banner permit for the Christmas parade in Chanukah Village, 11/19 through 12/11, event permit for the Chanukah Village, Main Street and Buttonwood Park on December 10th, North Main Street Phase 2 payment certificate number 4, and 2 certificates of appropriateness, 23-36 for 45 East Afton for a sign, and 23-37, 95 South Main Street for roof and sign. Is there any member of council that would like to have one of these items removed from consideration of the consent agenda? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion, Councilman Finer, secondman, Councilwoman Morris. Thank you. We'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Police Chief's report.
Thank you, sir. Two items tonight. The first is October 2023 service statistics. In October, the police department responded to 596 calls for service, issued 1 parking ticket, issued 44 moving traffic citations, investigated 4 motor vehicle accidents, and made 4 arrests, 2 of which were for DUI. The second item is our auxiliary police division is still collecting socks for the streets through the month of November. Collection points are at various places throughout town, but one is at Borough Hall, so extremely robust turnout so far for that, so thank you for everyone who's contributed, but we'll be collecting through the rest of the month on that. And that concludes my report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Chief? Okay, manager's report. Before we turn over to Manager Johnson, we'll start with consideration for consensus on the, or do we have that today? Do we have for the finance report as submitted in our packet? Is there a consensus on that? Okay, thank you. Manager Johnson.
Okay, I have the stats for October. We had another busy month in Yardley Borough. I just want to remind everybody, the public inspection of the budget has been advertised for an inspection period of November 13th to the 24th. We had 9 zoning applications in October, no zoning hearing boards at all, 9 construction permits. We performed 5 UNOs. Inventory in the summer months is obviously higher. It's getting a little bit lower now, but Yardley Borough properties are still very much desired. They don't remain on the market long. We had 4 trash certifications. Real estate transfer tax for October was $17,541. We had 2 right-to-knows this month. Both are closed. We spent 0 outside dollars on right-to-knows this month. Events in the borough for October. Park and Rec hosted an annual Halloween parade with a record number of participants. As always, very well run and organized by our Yardley Borough Park and Rec. Canaloween and Carvathon, another very successful, well-attended event. Pedal It Forward, as always, happens in October. It's a national event. Police auxiliary, and the office participated. This is always a lot of fun walking around. A reminder, we have a combined event with Lower Makefield on Saturday. It's an e-waste recycling, and it's going to take place in Lower Makefield in our pool parking lot. As the chief said, the police auxiliary are having a sock collection for the homeless. And like the chief said, there's various locations to drop off. So far, we collected over 500 pairs of new socks. We want to say a big thanks to Neighbors in Need and many other contributors. You can also there's a QR code on our website and everywhere else. You can actually send them stuff right from Amazon. Coming in December, our North Pole mailbox will be returning in a week or 2. David mentioned the Christmas parade. The mayor will be collecting his non-perishable foods during the parade. We have a Hanukkah menorah lighting on the 7th out in front of Borough Hall. Then the menorah will be transported to Buttonwood Park, where it will remain for the remainder of Hanukkah. And the Hanukkah Village will be happening December 10th. And that's my report so far.
My head's spinning.
We've been really busy.
It's that time of year.
That time of year.
All right, thank you, Manager Johnson. Do you want to discuss Resolution 2310?
Sure.
Okay.
I did prepare Resolution 2310 for the PennDOT DOT MTF grant, and we were going to submit for $900,000, right, Pat? But then in reading more of the grant, and we went through and did the whole grant as well, there is a match of over $200,000. I would recommend council perhaps look elsewhere for a grant. We could use liquid fuels and other funds, but this would wipe out our liquid fuels. God forbid we got a heavy snowstorm, heavy season. We have streets that are going to be needing paving down the road, so I would recommend sticking with the LSA grant for our Phase 3 sidewalks. We do have another grant out there that we're waiting to hear back from. We anticipate hearing that sometime next year, so I'm asking that to be taken off the agenda unless you guys still want to go for it, but that's a lot of money in our budget, and if we did get it, great, but that portion that we would have to pay, I think it would strap us a bit.
So I know we've talked about NTF grants before. Can we just go through, and Patrick, maybe you want to help, just what is this grant specifically, and how does this relate to some of the other grants? We would use this for the sidewalks, right, is the intention. So how is this different or similar from some of the other grants we've applied for in the past?
Some of the other grants that we applied for don't have matches.
Don't have matches.
Yeah.
It's from a different entity, or it's from the same entity, but this one happens to require a match?
DCED one did not have a match.
Correct.
But this one did.
This is from PennDOT.
Yep.
So PennDOT's requiring the match. They would not, they do allow different types of grants for matches.
Yep.
For example, there is a category for an LSA as a match, but at this point, we don't have that type of grant, so we can't use that as a match.
Does engineering count toward for this particular, can we put engineering costs toward the match for this?
Well, that would be included as well, so we're looking at all the costs, but no, it's, the match is really items that that we occur after we receive the grant as
got it.
well. So it's not items that we've already paid for.
And just to clarify, another question that comes up with this is, can you put the money from one grant towards the match of another grant?
Not for this one.
In particular, not for this one. They weren't accepting our DCED MTF as a match for this one.
Don, would you have an opinion on this one?
Yeah, I think we should hold off and go down the LSA route.
I do too, yeah.
Try to light a fire under whoever we have to get action on the grant we already submitted last summer. I don't think we should pursue this one.
Yeah. And I understand sidewalks are very important in the whole town, but we have to remember there's more parts to this town than just the sidewalks on North Main Street. There's many other areas that could need our attention in the near future, and if we put our eggs in one basket, we're not doing a good service to the rest of the residents.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's about where we can, it's just about what's optimal. If you look at where the LSA, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but we're looking where the LSA is. Date-wise, it makes sense, because it's coming right up, and there's no match. So,
Right.
you know, the way I look at this is, we have to finish the North Main sidewalk. It's already committed. The question is, how do we do it in the optimal way?
Sure.
And if we spend the 200 on that, and we could potentially, we're not going to get every grant we try to get. I think the success rate of grants is, you know, Pat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's anywhere between 15 and 30%. So that tells you every, you know, one out of, let's say, 4 or 5 grants that you apply for, you're going to get. So we have to factor that in and say, okay, just because we didn't get it, we got some, we didn't get some. Our odds actually, I think we're beating those odds anyway.
Absolutely.
But why, to me, where I get stuck on that one is, why apply for a grant that we're still going to be out 200,000? We can put that towards the match of other grants. Potentially, we can get to do other things that are smaller projects where, you know, the percent match would end up being, you know, 20,000 instead of 200,000. So it's kind of makes sense to, I agree with what's been said and just want to add that.
Okay. Do you want to move to the next item, Paula?
Sure. So we're wiping that out. We can get rid of that, right? The next, we have the 2024 fee schedule. Patty and I went through our fee schedule, compared other like municipalities, got input from the police department, the building department, the zoning department. So we came up with our new fee schedule that everybody got in their packet. It would be adopted now with an effective date of January 1st, 2024. So I'm asking for council's approval, vote on that.
And you, just briefly before we ask for a motion, any highlights, anything you want to highlight in terms of changes that we're making this year?
There was a few categories like zoning permits, sign permits, that did go up about $10, $15. But like we said, we compared to other municipalities, and this is pretty comparable. We're still on the low side in some stuff, but
Yeah, and I think this is part of something that President Thompson and you put in place of reviewing these on an annual basis, because we went several years without looking at this, and then after 10 years, we took a look and we're like, wow, this is way out of whack. So I think this is good practice that we're now doing this every year. So thank you, and Patty, for spending the time on that. So is there a motion, from council on adoption of the 2024 fee schedule that was proposed?
So moved.
Motion, Councilman Carlson, second, Councilman Scherer. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion approves 6-0. Last item.
And my last item is the approval of the solid waste contract that everybody heard about a couple weeks ago. So the contract was reviewed by Curtin and Hefner, and it's ready for everybody's signature. So, and this starts January 1st. It's a 3-year contract with a 2-year option, and it's still with Republic Services.
And in terms of procedure, this is the bid that we voted to accept, and now we're authorizing the actual signing of the contract as the next step.
Yeah, the contract essentially implements the accepted bid that council approved, I think it was the month or so.
Okay. Is there a motion from council to accept the approval of the solid waste contract?
Second.
Okay, motion, Councilperson Scherer, second, Councilperson Finer. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
One
Oh, yeah,
thing
go
I
ahead.
just want to mention is that to maybe let people know when they have to update their automatic payments, if they do that automatically.
Yeah, we already started working on changing the amounts in the system, and the bills will go out probably mid-December, just to hopefully give everybody a quick idea as well.
People have it on their own auto pay. and be
Right.
able to get Starting the January, quarter one is when
Mm-hmm.
they update it to the new price.
Well, they wouldn't have to make it, I don't think they would, we will just take the quarterly amount, like a credit card bill, that's how most people do it, I
Oh,
think.
okay. If some people do it.
Yeah, that's true, that's different, yeah, that's different, yeah, that's fair. Okay, so all those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Manager Johnson. Engineers report, Patrick.
Thank you. We've issued our engineer's report. If there are no questions, we could move to the LSA grant discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to, since you don't have Mary Bridge on here, let me just discuss that I want to bring it up. Is this a good time to do it, or do you want to do that as part of my report?
We could talk about it right now.
Okay. So obviously, everyone around town is wondering what's going on with the bridge, and this is, I think, sometimes the communication doesn't get through, so it's a reasonable question, what's going on with the bridge? So first, I just want to say it to all of our large audience here, what's going on with the bridge is that we're just waiting on PICO the paperwork has been going back and forth between our solicitor's office and PICO's attorneys to complete the acquisition for that property. Once that's complete, then we will have the right to finish the grading and finish that bridge. Now, it's been asked, can we just send a bunch of volunteers out to grade it? It's a great question, but from what I understand, not a good idea, because then there's liability to the borough, to the people who did it, and it's not to spec and all those things that, as just local people who live there, we would totally do that. But I don't see how we do that in a municipality. So we just have to wait. And that leads to the question of, the last contact was within the last week or so?
Yeah, the contract, it's taken PICO some time to turn it around, but it came back to us, I think, last week, and we had some tweaks. The language on the easement was a little ambiguous, so we tried to tighten that up. There were some edits that needed to be made. couple provisions dropped out that should have been in there. So we've made those changes and sent it back to PICO, so it's now with, again, PICO's legal department. And I know Andrew actually reached out to them today. I asked him to, just because I knew it would come up tonight. And that's where it is, so, and we're trying to, get it turned around as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and we're on from what we discussed previously, just for everyone's benefit, everybody agrees on what the easement is. It's just a matter of like putting it in the language that is not ambiguous. So, any idea when you respond to them, how long it takes them to then respond to you? Has there been a track record?
Well, it's been slow. to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I can't put specific days to it at this point, but it's taken a while. It seems like, review gets stuck in their legal department before it gets turned around. So we're trying to move it along as best we can.
So it's just a matter of reaching out to them every couple of days kind of thing to.
Ori, what happens after the approval from, once we get to that point?
Yeah, good. So once that's signed, what's the next step? That's a great question.
I think we can, have the agreement signed and proceed to a closing on the purchase of the property. That's the idea.
What's the space between the signature and the closing timeframe?
It's 70 days right now within the contract.
70, within 70 or out?
Within 70 days.
I believe the title work has actually already been done. I don't think there's gonna be any delay. I'm not aware of any reason. I guess the phase one has to be completed.
Yeah, currently we're waiting for authorization from PICO to go onto their property and work on the phase one report. Once the agreement of sale is signed, we have a 45-day window to make that submission of the agreement of sale, of the phase one report.
How long have you been waiting for their permission to do that?
It's been weeks at this point.
Are they waiting for that to be signed before they give?
Correct.
So it's kind of all comes together. We're
And
basically
how long does
and
it
then
take to do the phase one?
it-
Once you get on the property?
It's going to be less than 45 days as we've already started it. So once we have 45 days to make the submission. Once we submit it, once the borough submits it to PICO, there's 15-day, review on both parties to make sure everybody's in agreement with the phase one report.
For the audience at large, what is the phase one?
The phase one report is a due diligence of the, let's say, the record documentation regarding the environmental conditions on site, to see if there's any items that have been reported or recorded that are of concern.
This is concerning to me. Does that mean it would delay if there is a question involved in this report that has to be discussed between the two parties? Does that mean that the completion of the bridge will be delayed because the easement is not approved?
Correct. I mean, there is stipulations within the contract on what happens if both parties don't agree to the report.
So my question
as-
then, to follow up, is what if there's an emergency and that's the only way in, egress and ingress? What do we do?
Well, I mean, at this point, that's how we are, but I understand your concern too. And we'll have to follow up with Wes to make sure something's in place at this point.
I mean, could we temporarily put steps there until this whole thing is done, like wooden step, just to be able to get down off the bridge and open the bridge? Is that something that we should consider?
Yeah, if you want, we could look into
It sounds like
that.
it's gonna be months till, and then it's gonna be winter, and then we have a question.
Yeah, and I'm concerned.
Working the land in the winter, then this say we'd have steps, and we could just do it in the spring, and meantime, we've got like 6 months to put all
Right.
this stuff up. Not that obviously, the whole design is around the idea of not having steps, but if it's just a matter of putting temporary wooden step, I think it's one step from what I can tell, maybe it's two.
We'll look into that and talk with the contractor and see what we could do as we're waiting.
Or if you want volunteers to do that, we could do that too. I mean, if that's something that is open, because the landowner and me and other people around there
I've used a
got some
hammer.
wood and, s-
Should I sing?
what's that?
I had a hammer.
There you go.
Listen,
I mean,
oh, sorry, no, go
I
ahead.
think we have to think the safety issue you mentioned, and just the fact that it's just, there's a good faith effort here, but just. there's a
So,
lot of pieces to
we just completed Carvathon and Canal-Ween. I was there almost every night, helping to park cars. And though there was no incident, what I did notice is there is a lot of, I dare use the word clutter. I don't mean it in a negative way, but it's cluttered with construction equipment, snow fencing, it looks like, and other things that could potentially harm someone. And I just want to make sure, what are we going to do between now and whatever then is to clean up the site so that it's a little safer than it is now?
What we could do is, if you want, I'll talk to the contractor, see if they could demobilize in the meantime, and see what that, cost is, and I'll just.
Cost for moving his equipment around?
Correct. I mean, right now there's been a delay, so if he removes the equipment that he has, we could talk about.
Let me rephrase that. Could he not remove, but move? In other words, take advantage of the Pico lot to move I don't know if that's a backhoe or
Right now,
whatever
we
it
can't-
is.
We can't be on the Pico lot right now.
You can't be at all, okay.
I think we need a date by which, if nothing happens, because there's a lot of stuff here that we need to sort of make decisions on.
I'm sorry,
We might move it all out, and then 30 days later.
no, I'd like to ask, I'm sorry if I keep asking these questions, because this is new to everybody. I don't think this council's ever dealt with replacing a bridge before. So my question, when we do Canal-Ween, we have specific permission we're Carvathon permission to use the lot and park cars and so forth. Couldn't we ask for permission to move the equipment to the Pico lot? It's an empty lot. There's nothing there, except for a giant pole.
And while we're at it, we could ask permission to grade onto that, which would solve the whole
And
problem.
again, I'm not trying to be a troublemaker, but.
Yeah, I
it
think
just-
the only thing I can say to that is, and I deal with Phase 1 reports in the context of stuff at work, like, it's an environmental report so that we say, the report, everyone knows whether there's liability or not related to previous, like, contaminated ground or something, so you don't buy it and then find out that you owe remediation costs or something, right? And so I could see a scenario where they say, no, we don't want anything on that, because the second we sign this paper, we want to move to closing and get those reports done. I don't know. I'm open to having conversations with them or whatever we need to do. I have not been down that way, David, so I don't know how bad this clutter is, if it's.
Ori, what's your opinion?
I wouldn't consider it terrible. I think it could also be like kind of fenced a little more if we wanted to put something around that vehicle that's going to stay there. That Caterpillar, is that whatever?
I don't think it's a bug. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I think it's not ideal, but I don't.
Do you guys want to come up with an
I wouldn't wanna
ask
incur any
of, like, to
significant
Patrick
expense.
and ask him what we think is reasonable? Like, come up with an email of what you think is reasonable and
I think the main issue is that we
the
need.
closing. We need to
is
close.
We need to get the.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
The
We need to
faster
close.
we can
That's it. We got to close.
is-
I agree.
is what we have to do.
Yes.
Why don't we just, double up? Is there any other way to get Pico to move faster? Because I know there was a lengthy time until they responded. When they sent you guys the red line, that was great news to me because there was conversation happening. So it seems to me we've got their attention. Is there anyone else we could reach out
I
to?
did reach out to our municipal contact with Pico, and he tried his darndest as well on our behalf to try to get them to allow us to do the grading and to move forward. And he says they're just holding strong. They want us to have this property before anything else moves forward.
They want us to agree to their document. I mean, this is like a leverage technique for them to get us to be constructive on the document. I mean, that's what they're trying to do.
But then the grading, has it ever been looked at if the grading can fit within the right of way? No, does that not
It's
even work?
too steep. Right now, the current path extends over onto the Pico lot. So there's grading on the Pico lot.
Why don't we go the temporary stair routine and see how inexpensive that would be.
Yeah.
Just get the temporary stairs on there, so then it's
Then it's open.
Then it's
the rest of it,
open.
You know, it's not that it's,
It doesn't really matter.
And if it takes a few more months, it takes a few more months.
yeah, well, it matters to finish it, but at least, you know.
There's not an exigency of like,
don't have the-
Well, that would definitely satisfy me from that perspective.
And I think I could get that done as a volunteer. There was interest.
I can lend you my tools.
I just want to cut some wood.
And
please let the
move for
record
adjournment now?
reflect that at 8:01 PM, President Thompson has entered the building, and I am dropping the mic.
Right on.
No, you're good. We're on Patrick's engineering report.
Rolling engineering report. If we get that staircase installed, is there any issue with opening it? Can we just open it? Does somebody have to, I mean, like it's a temporary, you know, it's a construction zone. Here's a temporary staircase. Does anything does that have to get approved by anyone? Or can that just be opened?
I think it's just a matter of, we'll coordinate with the adjacent owner. As right now, we have the path closed as well. So we'll just have to make those, those contacts as well. But we'll check into a temporary stair.
Or we could
Cleaning
talk
up the
to
site.
John.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you said the adjacent owner, do you mean?
John?
Yeah, so you don't have to do that. We could reach out.
I can reach, I've already been in communication with him, so I can talk to him about that and,
Okay.
you know, we'll figure it out. Assume it for now as a volunteer effort, and we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Ori, and everyone that's worked on this.
Do we want to talk about the LSA grant at this point? Okay. What I've asked Manager Johnson to do is to list 3 potential projects to submit for the LSA grant. Just as a reminder, the grant is due on November 30th, and up to $1 million for the request. So earlier this evening, I did forward over the awarded project list over to Councilman Finer, and if you do, and I could forward it over to others as well, multiple projects were awarded to various municipalities, and the project cost ranged, from small up to $1 million as well. So there's from last year's awards or earlier this year, there are projects that were in the, high 6 figures and up to $1 million, just to let you be aware. So what we would recommend is making a submission for $1 million for the North Main Street right now, assuming that we don't have the DCED grant at this point that we're still waiting on. So we would, if council would like to make that submission, RVE would assist Manager Johnson in preparing that, reviewing the exhibits for that submission, and I think each submission requires $100 as well, as I was reviewing it. And next council meeting, we would have to pass the resolution as well for it. I'll just go through the projects here, then we'll just open it up and go through it. The various storm sewer projects, over a year ago, Manager Johnson and I looked at 2 stormwater projects, one at University. The other one is to replace the inlets, the storm sewers in one of the outfall connections down the hill. So that's one project. The second project is to replace the pipe within the parking lot across from Lake Afton. And a third project that I worked with Wes on was looking at trying to assist with mitigating of the flooding over at the Garlitz Pond. And so what we've what we're proposing for that project would be is to really replace the entire pipe from installing new inlets, new pipe, starting from Gartlett's Pond, and there's actually a pipe that goes across Morgan. So we would start there with a new inlet, maybe replace that head wall on the east side of Gartlett's Pond and extend it south towards Fold Avenue, and then go and replace it up to, into Delaware River. So that was the third project that we were thinking of for the various stormwater. So I just tallied up our preliminary estimate at this point. Of those three projects combined, we're just under $750,000. In summary, we previously estimated the University Drive, and I went back through my numbers with the 10% engineering as well as the 5% contingency. So just round numbers at this point, $128,000 for University, $45,000 for the Lake Afton drainage improvements, and then $575,000 for the Morgan Avenue drainage improvement project. So those were the three projects for the various stormwater improvements.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you're talking about the pipe that, the storm sewer for Lake Afton, is that the pipe that goes from Vince's parking lot?
Yeah, underneath the parking lot, yes.
And what is it, and you're,
From Lake,
is the pipe,
from Lake Afton
Yeah.
underneath.
and it
Kramer's
comes
Park.
into Lake Afton?
Right.
No, it leaves Lake Afton.
Leaves Lake
Goes
Afton.
under the park, what's now a parking lot, wasn't a parking lot.
Right.
Like, so that area, then it goes around the grist mill and down into the stream that then goes into
It
the,
goes
Under Main.
Yeah.
this is underneath.
under North Main
Yeah,
Street?
Correct.
correct.
Oh, okay, so I was, I'm on the other end, and I'm like, okay.
So,
Oh, okay, that one, the one that keeps collapsing?
yeah.
Yes, okay,
And-
that makes sense.
Yeah, and so this replacement would really take place where you could say there was a section that was already replaced in that parking lot.
Couple
So we would extend it down to that outfall, is really what we would be replacing there.
Okay.
Is what that project is.
The rest of the pipe really needs to be done.
Oh, I know it,
so-
one by one, it just keeps deteriorating.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. Thank you.
So those were the three various storm sewer improvement projects. The third item was just, we understand there's a need for updating the comprehensive plan for the borough. And so planning is one of the items sitting on, within the LSA grant. So we wanted to make that, as, a consideration for the borough to consider too.
So I want to address the first one first, the North Main Street. So I looked at that list that you sent. Thank you for sending that. The LSA grants, they're local share, it's a local share account. It's racehorse and gaming. So it's a very, very comprehensive list of awards, and there are several awards there that are $1 million in size, which is the maximum, and there's no match. So the question has been asked previously, what are the odds? And I keep asking you, what are the odds? Of course, you don't know the
Horse
odds.
racing.
But when you look at the amount of awards, it's impressive. So you look at that and you say, well, that also attracts more applicants, but and there's a lot in there for drainage, which we've gone back and forth. We have two options for North Main Street, to split off the drainage into a separate project or combine it with the sidewalk. But since we already have a grant for that one, to make this about the drainage aspect of it lines up. That just so happens the $1 million maximum is just about what we need to complete North Main Street. So to me, this one is a really good fit. I think we should go for it. I think it's we have good odds on this one, not to bring up the gaming thing, but it kind of.
That was very interesting.
So now with the other ones, and the engineer and I spoke about this previously, but with the other ones, there's the concern of if we apply for 3 grants, well, it's easy to kind of give Yardley, here's your comprehensive plan grant, and then bye-bye. And they got to have another line on the thing. So my only thought about it is that there are other grants. For example, I looked at the flood mitigation program grant, which has a 15% match that could possibly be used for that other, maybe piecemeal of those other drainage projects. Because I'm still worried that, it's hard for me to envision them giving us like $1 million for this, 750 for that, and then I don't know what the other one is, 50 or whatever. That's what I'd throw out there as a decision point. To me, finishing North Main Street is
Critical.
critical and the highest priority. I'd like to get that off of our chart and not hurt our chances by having competing items in this particular grant.
What is the engineer's opinion on the, I'm sorry about the analogy with odds and stuff because it's from horse racing, but what is the odds if we break it up into pieces or just go for one?
You could submit multiple grants, and you could have them as sole grants. I was looking at the LSA grants that we submitted last year that were awarded. And just remember, Yardley was awarded for the Pico lot last year, too.
Sure.
Some of our clients, we had 2 grants that were awarded under LSA. One being $1 million as well. One being $750,000. One being, so that they varied in prices, but a handful of them were over $500,000.
Right, but the question really is, what's the chances of getting it? Maybe I misunderstand what you're
Right.
telling me.
I can't tell you what those chances are, but if
So there's
we don't
no
submit it, we won't get it.
historical, I don't know, help me out here.
When we submit that, no, that part, I think if you look, I don't know if you looked at that,
I didn't have time, so I'm
it's a
sorry.
lot. There is a lot on there. But, you look at the amounts, and there are not that many that are $1 million. And,
Okay.
But they do exist. So when you apply for 3 grants, can you say, this is our first priority, this is our
Great point.
second, this is our third?
That, we could follow up with the grant coordinator and see what happens if they award one grant to us and don't award the other.
Right.
That's my one concern too. But that could be a question if you want us to follow. We could speak to them and discuss these 3 projects with them as well.
I wouldn't want to lose, it seems like we also have an opportunity on North Main Street because we just had this horrendous flooding that happened in July. And everything that happened from that. And that happened very nearby. And so doing drainage near it, you're on this right now, it just seems like I wouldn't want to put something else in there that's less connected, although they are drainage too, but they're not in that same spot.
And I think, or you talked about prioritization, and there's 2 separate thought clouds there. One, prioritization of our capital projects, and we have momentum on North Main, and then I'd also like to get an idea of environmental impact prioritization. So I know pre-COVID, we did have the residents that abut the pond into several meetings for issues they're having with drainage there, and I have not heard from them since. I don't know if Manager Johnson, you could give us an idea of how timely that project is. Are we talking about we need to do it in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Has it been an issue since they visited the meeting in 2019?
That storm pipe, and this is similar to what I said previous, this is another part of town that we really need to look at stuff as well. And it's really, really important. I do not think it would be smart to not apply for the storm sewer projects. In University Drive, go up there and look at those 2 inlets. They're caving in. And they're deep. We have to do something about them. We can't let it go. And that pipe is gonna go on Christmas Day, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And then we're gonna have emergency workers out there. I strongly encourage council to move forward with allowing us to apply for at least 2 of these grants.
What I hear.
Whether they're competitive against each other or not,
Okay.
Like I said earlier, this is another part of town that we need to focus on.
Right.
I understand how important North Main Street is. We all want that done. We want that done for 20 years. We have to look at other parts of the town as well.
I think what you're saying is that's more of a safety issue.
It is,
And that
absolutely.
has to go to the top.
Yeah, we need to really move forward with some of these, and I strongly encourage that we apply for these. Yeah, it's gonna compete against each other, but like Pat said, the other municipalities got more than one LSA grant in an award period.
Well, that's
Let's go
encouraging.
for it. We'll make our applications attractive enough so people look at it and say, yes, they need
I
this.
think that takes priority.
We
I also
we
think
really
it'd be
have to move
helpful
forward.
Find out, like, what, for us to get a picture on, in the entire borough, what are those, you know, safety issues in kind of ranked order, and what's the risk level of each?
Well, I agree about University Avenue. It almost swallowed my car one day. So, I mean, they're large. I agree.
I know that stormwater management, specifically jetting of stormwater inlets, has been on Wes's priority list for at least 5 years. So I think
It's time.
it's time, yeah. So it sounds like we have a consensus that we're going to move forward with multiple applications. Some will be drafted in-house and some through RVE. Is that everyone in agreement there? Do you have enough guidance to move forward? Need any more specifics from us?
Not at this time. What about the comprehensive plan? Are we just going to look elsewhere for that one?
I agree with Ori that there are, in my research as well, other options for that.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
I would just like to comment on the North Main sidewalks, Phase 3. Since we got to the 1 yard line on the MTF grant, and did all that work, I hope our incremental costs, outside costs, will be minimal on this, because we can just repackage it to the LSA format. Or am I off base?
No, well, it's minimal.
Minimal, okay,
Yeah,
good.
what we'll have to do right now is I was reviewing the estimate that we have right now is showing the request over $1 million. So we're gonna have, that was used when we were gonna apply currently for the DC, that's outstanding for the DCED, so we need to make some adjustments and fine tune the request, but it's minimal.
Okay.
We have the documents. We do also have, past years for LSA grant submissions as well.
Okay.
Patrick, I just ask that you be prepared when we do vote on submission of those, that you have a D&E as we normally do, so we know what the drafting cost will be to the borough.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Feiner and I were discussing that further. It's like from, I would say is the cost for Phase 3 is minimal. It's just trying to get together how we want to package the LSA for, let's say, the multiple drainage too, and go through that. But I think as we've been doing recently too, is we'll be coordinating with Manager Johnson to assist with, pulling those packages up as a team, and it's just not solely RVE preparing that cost.
I just want to add to that, because Pat and I had a lengthy discussion about that, and I understand, both sides of this question, because on one hand, it's like, yeah, just send the same thing to them, but then you don't get the grant, because each grant has its own specific questions, and yes, we have the drawings, but we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by doing a poor application that doesn't get approved. So I think we have to understand that every application is going to require some level of expertise in it, and there's going to be a cost of, however, a couple of $1,000s, whatever that is. And that's just, I think that's just a cost we have to absorb for the win of having a no-match grant.
Absorb, or it's
No, we will eventually.
already part of our budget.
We know we'll eventually get them. If we do 10 applications, we get nothing, there's something seriously wrong with us, because, the odds are we should have gotten them. So, but that's not been our experience. Our experience has been quite good.
Right.
So, I think that we have to accept it.
That's all I have to report.
Thank you. So that concluded the entirety of the engineer's report.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the solicitor's report, please.
I think I have nothing further to report this evening.
Council member reports, Councilperson Siegel Morris.
Yes, I attended the Experience Yardley board meeting yesterday evening, and they were discussing Canalween, which I think people would agree that it went very well. They ordered 500 pumpkins this year because they ran out last year. They didn't want anybody to be disappointed again. And out of those, they only had 50 uncarved pumpkins at the end of that rainy carving day. So in spite of the rain, it all went well.
Excellent. Councilperson Finer?
Well, thank you for the longest engineering report ever. I just have one little thing to add, which is that people are also asking about why is the canal empty? And it's a really good question, and I think we have to really I think we could improve our communication about the state of the canal. I'm learning about it myself, and I don't blame people for having questions because it's confusing. A lot of it doesn't have to do with the borough, but even still, if something's not going properly, the borough, I think it'd be good for us to contact and let people know, here's what we're doing about it, because it does go through the borough. What people don't know is because of the storm in July, there's a lot of debris and mud, whatever, in the canal. It has to be dredged to be able to function properly, and that is on the DCNR agenda. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know if anybody here knows, but until it's dredged, it won't get refilled, and that's why it's.
Are we the only community, Ori, that's having that problem, or is there other communities up
It's
north?
all the way up Washington Crossing, and
Okay.
somewhere around there is where it starts to.
Okay,
So, but that's the extent. I don't know a lot about it. That's what I know.
okay, I was just,
Well, the southern end of town, so it's just after lot 5.
Yeah, it's that section. And I think the repairs are actually north of us where the whole thing happened in Lower Makefield. So, but I don't know why our section, again, maybe, Paul, let me just defer to you for a moment. Is there any way we can get like a more detailed understanding of when it's going to happen and why the section in Yardley is affected by it?
Everybody's under the impression that Yardley Borough owns that canal. And anytime there's a problem, Chief will agree with me, I believe. We get phone calls, there's people on Facebook, what did you do? Why did, the fish are gone? The canal is owned by DCNR. It's their canal. They're allowed to drain it, do whatever. They do have a dredging project that's going on. They said it's going to remain that way until they get their project done. We do have to worry about the turtles, because the turtles, everything stops when it's turtle time, and October was turtle time. The canal is run by them. They're supposed to open the locks, they're supposed to close the locks.
I see.
They're gonna be dredging it, they're doing work. They'll say when they're gonna put water back in. No matter how many times we call up and ask questions about it, they're not gonna give us any answers. Wes did reach out to the head ranger today and ask them, please give us a statement that we can put on Facebook. We could spread out to everybody in Yardley Borough and everybody in Lower Makefield as well, because they call here about it as well, and get us something, an official statement from you guys, because you are the ones that are running this canal, not us. We'll wait a little while. I don't know how cooperative they'll be. We don't get a huge response from them. The current head of the park ranger, park manager, isn't as responsive as some of the other ones, but we'll keep pushing them. But it's their baby. They're gonna do what they wanna do, and they have a major dredging project that's gonna be going on. So we have to let them do their work in their canal and enjoy it when the water comes back in.
That major dredging project is going to be our part of the canal that's not.
It's more above of us, and a little bit below, and a little bit in the borough as well. But it's mostly all,
So it won't affect us.
no.
Then I understand that they'll
They're
do
not
it.
really addressing anything.
Sorry, I didn't mean to,
Sorry.
I
Right,
apologize.
but it's just work that's being done that they have to make sure the water stays out of it in order for all their workers to be safe as well.
Including Yardley Borough?
Yep.
So let me just take the perspective for a moment of a resident of Yardley Borough. So they come here, they say, okay, I get it. They don't know who owns the canal, and they think that and that's frustrating for you all who manage the canal, or manage the borough, to be facing those inquiries. But I think the way out of it is, what I've mentioned before, is to have, I think, a status page on the website that just, here's what we're doing, here's where the canal's at, here's the process, and publish, put down some kind of guidelines of who owns the canal, how is it managed, what happens when there's a problem, who you can reach out to if you're unhappy with it. If you're a resident, if I live on the canal and it's down, I'm like, let me call Paula. Oh, I see, this is who I have to contact. And if they hear from 100 residents, maybe they'll up the schedule of the dredging.
And it may cut down on your frustration
Exactly.
too, because they're not going to call you, hopefully. I mean, I know they will, but not as much.
Okay.
I think if we don't hear back from DCNR rather quickly, the statement from us doesn't need to have a lot of information in it, right? We can send an email blast, we can post on Facebook, we can put on the website. Yardley Borough is not in control of the water levels currently. The plan is to dredge. We have not received timeline from DCNR on when that dredging will occur. In the meantime, if you have any questions, here's the generic email or phone number.
Yeah, like exactly what you said here, I think you could send,
Yep.
a reworded version.
Yeah.
And then a week later, or whatever later, we are still awaiting a statement from DCNR. We still haven't gotten it. I mean, if they're not going to give you a statement, then, that's just public
Yeah.
information.
And Nora, you make a very valid point. As a resident, we care about this, and not as members of this council, but we should be able to ask questions of the DCNR saying, well, maybe you don't have to answer to the borough, but you have to answer to the people that live there
Own property and invest.
and own property and exactly. And that's all I want to say.
Does it smell? I mean, it's gotta smell with
Yes.
the water down that low. That's horrible to have that in your
We're not going to get those weird sea creatures again. What was that? The crayfish? Remember a couple of years ago, there was,
Somebody said they saw one.
oh no, no. Hope you like crayfish.
The bottom feeders are having a party.
I will say we appreciate everything the DCNR does. I'm sure they have a lot of
Yes.
things on their plate. So this is not a bash in any means. We just
No.
want to get some communication out. So it sounds like Manager Johnson, you can handle that. Anything else, Councilperson Finer?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Councilperson Curtin.
No report, but I will take the opportunity to say congratulations to all of my fellow council members on Election Day yesterday, and I think the borough is in great hands with the 6 of you returning and remaining in your positions, and Jared coming on board, and I wish you guys a lot of success.
Thank you.
Councilperson Carlson.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment or two about the budget. We presented the preliminary budget, or the actual budget, and issued it last time. I just want everybody to know we made a lot of assumptions about what was going to happen in October, November, and December, which impacts how next year goes. And October is behind us, and so I looked at the numbers for October, and everything's pretty consistent with what we projected to happen for the next 2 months. You heard earlier that a real estate transfer number was 17,000 and change. That's the second highest month of the year. So, and about $5,000 higher than I projected. So that's a good one on the plus side. And then Chief's doing what he said he would do with his budget to get the savings that we were committed to in the year. So feel good from that perspective. And then my only other comment on community and economic development, and Councilman Thompson, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at our next meeting will be it will be community outreach, CE&D, and public works will be the 3 deep discussion areas that we do on the 17th or whenever it is, 21st, I guess it is. So,
Correct.
okay, that's all I had.
Councilperson Applebaum.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I wanted to say that I attended the YBA planning meeting yesterday for the Christmas parade and the business card meeting that I mentioned earlier. Doing some very exciting things for the coming year, end of this year and the coming year. I've been going to Parks and Rec, and they've been doing some very strong work. I was particularly pleased with the Halloween parade and, how successful that has become. And I guess special kudos to I forgot to hit Jake's list.
Officer Kuczynski.
Officer Kuczynski, wonderful job there. One of the things that comes out of both the YBA and the Parks and Rec meetings, and I'm sure probably Experience Yardley if I have an opportunity to speak with them, is the idea of doing cross promotions because, and we'll probably talk to that as we move into 2024, but there's a lot of opportunities to work together rather than separately, as was brought up in our YBA meeting, and as well as the Parks and Rec meeting. Canal-Ween Carvathon was successful. We're going to be having a postmortem on that and come up with some suggestions between myself and the people that were managing that. And Harvest Day, we talked about next year because there's the bridge project on Letchworth. Southeast College, and that's going to potentially affect the size of the event. So we're working on alternative locations for it. TAG has really taken off. That is Towns Against Graffiti. I'd like to again thank Dr. Perlmutter for walking Anthony from TAG around town and actually pointing out where the graffiti is so that he actually knows where to do his remediation. And one of the largest pieces of graffiti that was alongside the CVS building has been removed. And you can't tell, from a distance, you can't tell that there was graffiti there. So they're doing a fantastic job. I'm going to also take my own walk around other locations and the previous locations just to, not to verify, but just to make sure that there isn't anything else, for instance, behind the grist mill. I wanted to thank, and this is new, I didn't bring this up in the last meeting, but our contributor for the $1,500 is Spearhead Group, not to be confused with Spearhead Earth, that's their foundation, but Spearhead Group. I went, after our meeting, I said I need some help to walk around and try to get people on board to donate money to this project, and they said, well, frankly, I'd just rather write you a check for $1,500. And I said, bingo, thank you. So that's done. And Borough Manager Johnson, did we get the $1,500 check yet, or do I have to ask for them to? All right, I did remind them last week, but if not, let me know, and I will make sure that you get that.
Definitely not in the last week.
Okay, I'll get that for you. All those organizations that we spoke about need volunteers, so I just want to say, especially as the holiday parade gets closer, there's a need for volunteers to help with the management and and making sure that people are marshaled in the right direction and keeping people safe, working alongside the police and the auxiliary police. I also, it was Ori, Caroline, and myself met with Spearhead Earth, the foundation, to talk a little bit more about the $10,000 watershed grant that was received, and that they had participated in Carvathon, not only to talk about what they do or their previous work on Burlington Island, where they have been successful in removing several tons of plastics, but their mission and to kind of poll the citizens or residents of what kind of things they're interested in as well, because we do want to keep not people apprised of what we're doing, but also keep them as of, they have a vested interest in what we're doing, and if there's any suggestions, we want to take that into consideration. And that looks like it's it, so thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Wonderful, thank you. Councilperson Scherer,
No report.
any discussion items or last-minute additions for discussion this evening? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion was made by Councilperson Siegel Morris, seconded by Councilperson Scherer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:36.